And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So, today I'm joined by Dusky, and today we are going to be talking about Dusky's upcoming game, Havoc Fox. Hello, Dusky.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And, yeah, thank you for joining me. So, let's start with And how about you introducing the people listening to this just a little bit about you?
A little bit about me. Well, I'm 22. I'm in college for computer science. Started developing games when I was 16, and I've been working on this same game since then. It's been through several iterations,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been gradually learning, and I'd say it's going pretty smoothly now. I'd like to, once I graduate, be able to work in the game development industry, more or less full time if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be pushing my own game, Havoc Fox, forever onto Steam. And I do work on other games as well, as more or less part artist mostly, most of the time.
Okay. And growing up, what would you like? How did you first discover like video games? It's like as a concept, as like a thing to do and play.
I think the first console I had was a Game Boy. That was my first one that I had. I remember watching my mother play a lot of Xbox. I believe the Xbox 360 when I was younger. She would play Prince of Persia and whatnot, and me and my sister would play Littlest Pet Shops and name our Littlest Pet Shops after the characters of that game. And I started to become very interested in video game stories. And then when I got my Game Boy from a yard sale, I started off with Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed Pokemon and other platformer games like Donkey Kong Country that made me want to look more into it. And just as we got older, eventually I got exposed to Sonic through the London Olympic Games, I think, in 2012 for the Wii. And I liked the characters, so I checked out Sonic Classic Collection on the DS because I only had a DS at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And like that enough that when I was in high school, I had this realization that, oh, making games is actually something I could do. I never had considered that it was more accessible now that I could actually do it. So that's when I started looking into how, and then it just went from there.
Okay. And uh, what was your favorite game and or games growing up?
Probably, probably definitely Sonic 3 and Knuckles would be the one that was most influential, and Pokemon Y, because that was the one that I centered the YouTube channel I had around,
Mm-hmm.
because I liked to shiny hunt. So that was the main thing I did with interacting with games is I would upload videos of shiny hunts on that console.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game and or games now?
Probably, well, definitely still Sonic. I do still enjoy Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
I I like to play more, it's still Pokemon and Sonic most of the time. I found that I really liked the game Freedom Planet, and well enough, I ended up working on the sequel. So that was pretty cool. But that would probably be one of my favorite games, along with Sonic and Pokemon. I'm pretty basic, but I also love rhythm games too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure I'm up to the task of programming one myself, but I'd love to one day. I'm really big into Rhythm Thief, which is a pretty underrated one. that Sega published back in, I think again it was 2012.
Okay. So if Havoc Fox had a booth at a convention like PAX or something similar, and someone was walking by and they spotted it, what would be the elevator pitch you'd give them to try and get them interested like right off the bat?
Generally, we do a little breakdown, like a brief explanation of the story and
Mm-hmm.
the gameplay. We've had a few smaller booths at some conventions close to my college. So we'll start with this is a 2D action platformer game where you work to save your continent from a corrupt king. And we have the first few stages here if you'd like to try them.
Cool. Um, and how does the game, how would you describe the gameplay exactly to someone who
It,
might not be as in the know of games as others?
it's essentially a mix between exploration and uh, action. If anyone was even remotely familiar with the concept of Mega Man and the growing weapons system that you end up with in each game, where you progress through the game and as you defeat bosses, you'll get new powers that enable you to traverse levels more conveniently and possibly unlock secrets. It focuses on exploration with an aesthetic more similar to Sonic, with a semi Saturday cartoon sort of story with some darker elements. It's kind of an in between, I would say, young adult themed story with a game that's flashy and in short bursts, but is long enough to provide a lot of playtime if you really get into it.
Okay. And, where would you say, like, what, like, previous game series? I mean, you mentioned it's a little bit like Sonic, but are there any other game series that you say, like, served as, like, the main inspiration for what, like, Havoc Fox will be when it's, like, released onto Steam?
Primarily, the inspiration was Freedom Planet because
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how that game played like Sonic, but took itself into its own hands and made it something unique. But the original inspiration for the game was Shovel Knight, actually, because when I was, I believe, a freshman in high school, I had the soundtrack on my phone and was on the way home on the bus listening to the songs and imagining different stages that would fit all those songs and really wanting to make them a reality. So, Shovel Knight was actually the main inspiration for the stages that are actually in the game, while then Freedom Planet was more so what inspired how the gameplay and overall like look of it would be like.
Okay, and all right then, and just like what was there any like single specific thing that like inspired you to like make Havoc Fox like look the way it looks and play the way it plays, or was it just like as you said before, like a combination of a few things kind of going together?
Yes, I wanted to pay homage to a lot of the games that I grew up with and a lot of more obscure games and even just bits of other games to kind of bring them back into a modern setting,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not people actually are able to tell that that's what I'm doing. I aim to kind of combine them into more of a unique experience that still is accessible to most people, such as we put a rhythm game into one of the stages as a mini boss fight, but it's not too difficult for someone who does not play rhythm games to get the hang of it, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of expose people to more than just the base platforming. I want to try and throw little unique bits in there, here and there, so that some people are more inclined to check out some of the games that I believe deserve more attention, like the aforementioned Rhythm Thief.
Okay then, and has there been an aspect of the game that you like at any part of its development that so far that you found to be like more challenging than like you initially anticipated, or has like making this game be like roughly like as challenging as you like initially thought it was before when it was still in like the planning phase?
When I was making this, it started off as somewhat of an excuse to use my funny little characters in a game that finally people would be drawing them and those people wouldn't be me. But I
Mm.
was 16, so I just wanted my characters to be popular. But as I went on, you gradually realize game development is a lot harder than just making somebody jump around a little world. There's been a lot. My parents initially did not start out as thinking this could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and often, because I didn't know how to do pixel art at all, but I tackled this entire game to be pixel art. I didn't know how to design a game, so the original game was not great. So when I would show it to people, the reception was not positive. So I had to deal with a lot of really heavy-handed criticism and had a moment where I just scrapped the entire game and started over because I didn't think there was any saving it. But just working through learning how to make an actual game, I guess was the hardest part because I had those rose-tinted glasses. I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it was because I was just blinded by the possible fame that I could get from it.
Okay. And where did the name Havoc Fox come from? Is that like have something to do with like something in the game, or was that like just a placeholder name you put when you like started working on it and you decided to keep it because why not?
I don't remember too clearly where I got the name from. I know Fox was that the main character was a fox, so
Hmm.
I thought I want to have a name that's short, maybe two, 3 words, maybe. I thought initially I was thinking of a fox in time, and this was before I knew a hat in time existed. But there are some elements of the story that focus on time, or at least someone in the past existing in the present. It's a bit of a spoiler, so I won't go into it. But when I was thinking about how can I play into time, and that didn't really go through. But the main villain's name was Havoco, and I said, so maybe I can name it after him. So, well, havoc is not a word, so havoc is a word. So I thought, okay, we'll take havoc, and he's a fox. The main character's a fox, so we'll go havoc fox, and then that just kind of, I didn't think it was going to be the name for a while, but it just stuck as we went on, so I kept it.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you worked on you know some of the like the art on Freedom Planet 2, Electric Boogaloo. Do you feel like any part of you working on that may have like influenced Havoc Fox in any way, either like visually or like how the game plays?
A lot of it. I've lifted some scrapped things from FP2 to put in Havoc Fox, and my improvement in pixel art has definitely helped. I learned better ways to shade metal and better ways to design bosses. Tyson 10 gave me some pointers on mecha designs, and I put those into practice with my own stuff. And notably, I liked to take scrapped boss concepts and make them into something of my own, which I did, I asked. But there was, for example, there's this boss later in the game. His name is Nausalok, and he's got elemental powers.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a scrapped phase, where he was the metal element, where he would drop you down a pit and fire lightning at you. And that did not end up going used, but I thought, hey, what if I use that free fall concept for something in my own game? So a phase of a boss fight that I ended up making uses that free fall concept with that lightning attacks that we did not end up using for FP2. So there were a lot of things that ended up inspiring Havoc Fox, and then just general gameplay stuff that I was like, oh, that's a good quality of life thing that I should probably add to my game because I like the convenience it gives me in this game.
Okay. And, when the game is all finished and out there for all the world to enjoy, like, how, like, difficult would you, like, describe it as? Like, if someone like me who's only slightly good at video games were to play it, like, how easy or difficult a time do you think it would be?
I think it would be slightly harder than average platformers, but not incredibly difficult. I'm decent at video games.
Mm-hmm.
I take a lot of inspiration from the Mega Man ZX specifically for this game's controls, but that game was so difficult for me that I couldn't beat past the halfway point. So that's kind of my perceived limit is don't make it hard enough that it does that to someone that someone cannot beat the halfway point because it's so difficult. And I do want to add accessibility functions just in case someone can't beat it, such as we just don't have lives in the game. There's
Mm-hmm.
no game over. You ran out of lives. You can keep trying from the checkpoint for as long as you want because lives are kind of archaic, in my opinion.
All right then, and like when the game is like fully released and playable, like how long? I mean, with keeping in mind that sometimes life happens, like, but provided like nothing like happens, like how long do you for what's the total amount of time you like see it taking to go from like back when it was just an idea to like a fully finished product?
Oh, it hits about if I started coding in 2017, it's been I think it passed 5 years coding if we count the earlier version of it before I scrapped it. So that's 5 years, and then probably two more, maybe three, depending on how college goes. So possibly it would have been 8 years in total. It's pretty long, but it is just mostly just me, so I can understand it, I suppose.
All right then. And if there's anyone out there listening to this, like, which considering this channel is a rare thing, but if anyone actually is listening to this and they've like got it into their head that maybe this whole making games business might be for me, what would be some like advice you would give to someone to like just starting out that you like that you feel like you would have done well with if you had it at the beginning?
Definitely don't just do it for possible popularity. Don't let Scope Creep get ahead of you. Don't plan a massive game because you want to fit everything in at once. You want everything to be shown at once. Like, I want all my characters right front and center. I want everybody to see all of them once. I don't want to wait. It's not a bad thing to wait. Spread it out and do not stress yourself out with a major project all at once. Start small and work your way up. Practice the little things, practice every aspect of it. Even if you're not amazing at one aspect, it's okay. Just start small. Don't get too big for your britches, as the saying goes. Do not put all of that on yourself at once because you will get stressed and you will make poor management decisions and you don't want to have a start like that.
All right then, and like the game is currently like wish listable on Steam, and but are there any platforms that like provided all like goes well that you intend to like put on it at first available opportunity?
We will probably publish to itch.io and possibly Game Jolt. I need to update that page. Other than those at the start, I don't. Oh, possibly GOG. I keep forgetting that exists. Uh, but I'd like to put it on consoles, but that will not be at the same time as PC because we do need to work out how exactly we're going to figure that out as the game is made in Click Team Fusion, which is not usually the easiest game to just throw on the Switch and call it a day. So
Hmm.
if we can, we will, but it's not a guarantee at this point.
All right then, and um, like the characters are just like anthropomorphic animals. Do you feel that was that in any way like from Freedom Planet, or were you just like, you know what, this game would be better if the people were people but animals?
I've always had a big bias towards animal characters,
Mm.
especially cats. When I was a kid, I made so many cat OCs. There's a whole notebook full of about 100 of them that I haven't used since. But most, a lot of the characters in Havoc Fox came from my early days on DeviantArt, where I would
Mm-hmm.
buy adoptables and then make little characters and make little comics with them. And were just redesigned to be more acceptable for a video game setting. So honestly, it mostly just came from my early bias liking animal shows and liking cats a lot. So it wasn't really just a matter of, oh, the game will be better this way. It was more like, I like these characters and I want to use them again. So that's why they're all animals.
All right then. Um, Yes, I believe with that we can, wrap up this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Dusty for joining me and talking about, this cool game of yours that like we're gonna have to keep an eye on. And if someone was like listening to this and heard you like talk about this game that you're working on and they thought to themselves, I would like to keep tabs on this, where would like you say would be the best place to go about doing that?
Well, before the whole incident, I would have said Twitter, but I'd say I have a Twitter, I have a Tumblr. I usually go by the handle Havoc Dusk on most places. You can find it Twitter, DeviantArt, YouTube as well, occasionally, and Tumblr. I do have a Patreon as well. If you want exclusive stuff, I do post on there. So any of those, or wish listing it on Steam is also a good option for knowing when it comes out. But for progress, definitely those websites, and we do have a Discord server that you can find on my Twitter as well. And the game's official Twitter has the game has its own Twitter page that has the Discord pinned, I believe. So you can join our Discord over there. We'd be happy to have you. And I post stuff all the time there, may or may not including awful jokes. So
All right then, you heard it here. Wishlist it on Steam. Mm, Follow the game on its Twitter, Discord. If you want to support the developers' efforts directly, you can go to patreon.com/havocfox and see what awaits you there. And yes, if for anyone out there listening to this enjoyed listening, to me ramble on while you listen to Dusk Dusky rambling on about her game, yeah, you can like and subscribe. Hit the little bell icon, and after you go to Patreon to give Dusky money, you can go to patreon.com/the Pumpkin Coptercast and give me some money. And for like as little as $1 a month, you could submit questions for me to use in future interviews. Um, yeah, this has been me and Dusky, and the game has been Havoc Fox, and this has been another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. And as I say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.
see ya.